back with Eric now, and this is not video from today because today's storm compared not at all to the blizzard of '78 that Eric hit New England 47 years ago today.
We're still talking about it.
Still talking about it.
Must have been a big one.
It must have been.
That storm dropped 27 inches of snow in Boston, but much more in some areas away from the coast. And of course, it brought the region to a standstill for a week.
I hope that the fact that the sun is shining and that blue skies are out there doesn't deceive anybody. We have a very serious emergency situation, and I would hope that all of you would continue to remain in or close to your homes.
This is the Mass Pike extension looking east, going into the city of Boston. And anybody who's ever seen this road at 7:35 in the morning, at the height of the rush hour, knows what it looks like, with traffic almost bumper to bumper flowing into the city. Here it is the morning after the great storm. The road is empty.
So even then, the journalists knew that that was a great storm. And yes, here we are 47 years later still talking about it because it impacted so many lives, didn't it?
It really did. I mean, this was one of the biggest storms. We've had a lot of storms that are, a little similar, similar snow or big on coastal flooding, and everyone's a little bit different in any one particular town. But this one, we had that snow for almost 2 straight days, slow-moving system. Biggest part, I think, not just the snow, but it was the coastal impact because it was slow-moving and it hit at a high astronomical tide. As it kept on swirling, we had 4 high tide cycles. It was extremely destructive for a lot of coastal communities from Scituate up to the North Shore. And there you see the bullseye of snow. Just southwest of Boston and down to northern Rhode Island, there were reports of 40 inches of snow there.
It's interesting because we've had numbers like this recently, like I think in 2010, 2015, whatever it's been. But this storm sort of stands alone. Mainly because, you have that clicker in your hand. Back then, we didn't have the same technology to know it was going to be this big.
I love the old clips because you can see Bruce Schwegler and, you've got the old board that you have to slide in. You get out your marker and you're drawing on it. And forecasts have changed a lot. And sometimes we take heat, sometimes with reason, because forecasts are never going to be perfect, ever. They'll never be 100%. But this one, you think about a generational storm. There are maybe 3 meteorologists in Boston who even called it. The rest didn't even know a big storm was coming. I mean, can you imagine now if we were going to get a 3-foot snowstorm, finding out about it the morning that it happens? I mean, we would start talking about it 10 days in advance.
Yeah. So where does it stand up in history? Because it's been a while, but we still talk about it.
Yes. So here's a look at some of the bigger snows. The #1 Boston snowfall is the President's Day storm in 2003. There's a lot of angst in the weather community about that. Everyone says it's basically BS. That was a bad measurement, and it's not #1. And the blizzard of '78 was bigger. But you look at some of the other storms on here. The April Fool's blizzard is actually one of our top 5 snowstorms. 2013, this one in February, people might remember. I think that's been most recently the one that's been closest to the blizzard of '78. We did have some 40-inch snowfall totals in eastern Connecticut. We did see a lot of coastal destruction, some similar winds, but it doesn't resonate because it's a different time. Now, when there's a storm like this, we just shut it down. And the purpose of forecasting is that nothing happens. When this happens, everything happens.